first drive with the GoPro Hero13. It is not in the best position in the passenger seat near the headrest. This is just the built-in mic on the GoPro itself. It was raining, so I disconnected the external mics. Really just more testing the perspective of the camera in this location. I will probably have it attached to the roof via suction cup mount, unless this ends up turning out pretty good. We'll see. Obviously I can't use it if I have a passenger, but if this looks good, I may run with it. First impression through the preview screen on the back, it seemed like the dash wasn't super close, so I may end up having to crop the video so that you can get a closer view of the dash. And I do not expect this to be the greatest audio quality. Probably, there's a lot of drone inside the cabin. I think this is probably one of the downfalls of the hatchback. I've never really driven the WRX sedan. Very long time ago when I did, and it did not have an aftermarket exhaust, so it's hard to compare. But my gut instinct tells me that because there's effectively like a huge area in the back of the hatch that sits just above the muffler, there's a lot of noise that ends up coming up through the floor and into the cabin, because the car is really not that loud on the outside. You don't get that drone effect from the exterior. So but we'll see how it sounds. Again, my expectations are fairly low. Play it back. I'll probably post this to YouTube mainly. It's just a test. And then once the weather gets a little better, hook up the intake mic and the exhaust mic. Feel like I'm starting to get those dialed in a little bit. And that will make a much, much better overall experience. I'm just glad to have the video at this point, because I haven't really had any video yet outside of like cell phone stuff, and it was about 18 pounds right there, maybe a little less. You can kind of pick up the pops and bangs, but it's much, much better when I have that exterior mic, that external mic on the back bumper. Too bad once you get moving, but from a start it can be pretty rough at times. I was told it's going to be grabby like that forever, just because it's got to be able to put that power down, and if I had a weaker clutch, I'd probably just end up burning through them. It was cheaper than I thought. It was only about $500 or $600 for the part itself. I need to double check the brand, but it was listed as a stage 2 competition clutch. it from gas tank to gas tank. And I still have the Civic. I'm trying to keep the miles off this for the time being, but especially now when I'm trying to get the like the audio and now the video dialed in, it's a really good excuse to take her out for a ride. And my son loves it, so I usually will pick him up from school in this. He's been a car freak basically his whole life, just like me. But he's learned at a much younger age. I was probably like 16 or 17 before I even knew what a cylinder was. Like, oh, what is a 6-cylinder? What the hell does that mean? He's 14, and he's pretty knowledgeable and wants to go into mechanical engineering. And he will learn to drive on a 6-speed Civic. Should be a lot of fun. It has the hill brake assist, which will be extremely useful because the exit from our subdivision is on a hill. He'll be driving in about 8 months or so, or learning to drive rather. Really, the only bad thing about this car so far is the tint. Makes it very difficult to see at night. Headed up to Whole Foods, in case you were wondering. Gonna get some onions, some other stuff, make some French onion soup. Should be tasty. Cars to downshift and rev match that I've ever driven, and I've driven a lot of different cars. I don't know exactly why it is. This is the stock flywheel, and this has a 2-liter crank. The crank from the 2-liter. If you're unaware, this is a de-stroked EJ257, so it's technically 2.34 liters. I wanted that so that I could get higher revving out of it. Fuel cutoff is around 7,500 RPM, makes max power around 7,200. And if you're familiar with these gearboxes, you know that you cannot hit 60 miles an hour in second gear. It requires that 2-3 shift, but now I can wind it out a little bit further and actually hit 60 in second gear, so major benefit.